Hello everyone, I'm Tony Southcott.
And I'm Komet, and welcome to Original versus Remake, where we take the original film and compare it to its modern counterpart.
And we're talking about 1953's The House of Wax and House of Wax with Paris Hilton from, I believe, 2005.
2005, yes. It was quite...
I graduated that year. That's how old I am.
That's quite a
15 years ago.
time of movie making.
Yeah, like this is an interesting time in horror because it was fraught with remakes. It was fraught with a lot of very, very similar formulaic type things that kept on happening. If you've watched Cabin in the Woods, you can almost guess exactly how they're going to make it based off of that movie, based off the 5 or 6, between 4 and 7 main characters, and how things are going to end. It was not the most original time in horror. There are some exceptions, but there was a lot of formulaic stuff. Mm-hmm. And the new House of Wax actually fits into that in a lot of ways, while also giving us some very interesting visuals and a few compelling things that made it stand above some of those other ones.
It was definitely fun to watch. I want to talk about the 1953 version.
Let's back it up to 53 with Vincent Price.
I've never seen a Vincent Price movie before that I know of, and I did not know who he was until after I watched it, but I got to say, I was very, very surprised watching this. However old, how many years is that?
It's like 60 some years.
60-year-old movie.
Almost 70 years old.
Yeah, it was 1953.
So
but it took place in the early 1900s?
Yeah, it was basically, I think, 1910 or something around there, like 1906 to 1910. And it's weird to see a period piece from the 50s. It's just kind of a cool wrinkle added on top.
It worked, though. I think that's what made it feel not as dated as some of the other films that we've watched that are almost as old. The one that I keep on comparing it to in my brain is Black Christmas, which was filmed in the 70s?
Yeah, and
took place in the 70s.
Everybody keeps saying that, like, Black Christmas was the first slasher, and it's like, this had elements of slasher in it. There's been a lot of other movies that came before slashers, and I hadn't seen this one before. This was actually something that one of our fans asked for, and I decided to take a look, and upon watching it, I was like, this is actually really good. Like, I'm not hateful of movies from the 50s or 60s or 70s, but they have some pacing issues a lot of the time.
And watching movies that are that old with our modern critical mind and how we expect movies to go is very hard. But this movie hit it in a way that makes it timeless. I watched this movie and didn't have a problem with it really at all.
Yeah, like I was watching this, and the person I was watching it with, we expected to just be like laughing at how tacky things would be, or just how non-believable, or how completely not scary, which I will say it's not the scariest movie. It's got its own issues with cheesiness, but it has creep factor. It has great kills. It has a lot of authentic good feeling to it. And it also, for the 50s, for depicting the early 1910s, doesn't have an awful damsel in distress. It actually has an activated female protagonist, which is good. And I thought that the way they built this movie, the way they built the mystery, the way they showed the wax figurines, and everything about Vincent Price's performance, all of it was fantastic. Like, I didn't have any issues at all with this. I was very surprised and happy.
Mm-hmm. The only thing maybe that was dated is maybe the screenwriting, but not even. It was an original story. Even with, I had seen the 2005 remake when it had come out in 2005, and even then I was surprised by what was going on. They have a nice twist on it. A great villain, great visuals. They had some amazing cinematic points in this movie with using light that I was very, very happy to watch.
Yeah, and even like the sets were beautiful. Like
the wax figures were really well done.
Yeah, like, and that goes for both movies. In all honesty, like, both of the movies had great wax figures. You better if your thing is about a wax museum. I will say that. As far as the newer one, having the House of Wax actually made out of wax added some very interesting wrinkles to it that I did not anticipate. I mean, once I saw what it was, I figured there was going to be some melting and some other things happening, but the way they ended up doing it made it fun.
So I guess since we don't really have anything to critique about the 1953, let's move into the 2005 version of it. I think the point that makes it the most well-known is Paris Hilton. You get to watch, spoilers, watch Paris Hilton get murdered in this, and that's just fun for a lot of people.
That was also a very big sell in 2005.
Yeah.
They tease like you're going to get to see her naked. It's on Pornhub. But like other than that, like it's just a movie where you get to see Paris Hilton doing a little bit better acting than the early parts of her career, along with Elisha Cuthbert or Cuthbert. I've always heard it Cuthbert, but that's a weird main thing.
Chad Michael Murray. Girls, you remember Chad Michael Murray? He was huge back in this during this time.
A lot of stars from the early aughts that aren't super around anymore, but still good actors. And there wasn't a problem with performances in this movie. I did like how they kept on beating the thing on like twins, and especially because I am a twin, I was like seeing that.
Oh, I forgot about that. Did that hit like an extra little chord with you?
No, I just keep on thinking that I'm always the evil one.
Are you the evil one?
I mean, my sister's kind of mean.
Heather, don't watch this. I liked that element. I liked that they added a few things that, if like us watching it almost back to back, I watched the 1953 last night, but watching the 2005, I wasn't predicting every single thing, and that was a lot of fun. I thought that they did a great job with that. I will say that what dates this movie is the soundtrack.
Yes. If you enjoy mid-aughts new metal, like NU metal, it's your soundtrack.
There's a lot of Disturbed.
And, there's some Marilyn Manson. I will admit this sounded a lot like my pre-football warm-up tape. Or CD. It wasn't quite tapes. I'm not that old. But I used to listen to stuff like that just to get amped before football games and stuff. And it was a lot of Rob Stein and all that. So
Rob Zombie. I'm sure there's a Rob Zombie in there somewhere. If they would have selected, or even if somebody were to edit this movie with a little bit more either timeless music or more modern music, I think it would have held up to today's standards totally.
Put a score on it instead of just random music from the time.
Yeah, I agree. So. And this, it looked like a lot of the effects were actually physical effects instead of CGI, and so a lot of it held up.
Yeah, there's
really well.
There's only one shot where you kind of see the CGI poke out. I'm sure there's a little bit more in the movie that's hiding certain things, but for a movie that is 15 years old, it doesn't have issues with bad CGI. No. I was completely fine with it. Some of the practical effects are absolutely gruesome, and I think that's one of the movie's big strengths too, is that it is not an easy movie to watch at some points. It's not Saw, but there's definitely going to be some points where you're like, oh god, oh, oof.
Yeah, but I have a hard time watching things like that. Not necessarily, I wouldn't call this a gory movie.
It has its moments, though.
I wouldn't call it a not gory movie, though, either. There's a few moments that I remember from watching it back in 2005 and turning it on. I was like, oh no, I know what's coming. And I was like, no. But Noah's effects looked great. The acting wasn't terrible. The visuals, we got to talk about, since we're on kind of the same thing, the visuals of the wax in general. I think they did a lot of fun things with that.
And they have a lot of fun in the beginning of the movie, and they're showing you all these things, and they're kind of flexing because they probably spent a lot on that.
Yeah.
But towards the end of the movie, during this climax, you get to see so many cool visuals that are authentically creepy looking, not like, oh my god, I can't stare at the screen, but just really cool vignettes into this presentation, and I really enjoyed it for that. It's formulaic, but it's pretty, in its own sinister way.
In a dusty way, not like a pristine, I talk a lot about light in what I like about cinematography, and this didn't have a lot of striking visuals in that sense, but physically dusty and kind of grimy and dirty and makes you go yuck, or it's a very texturized movie, and I really appreciated it for that.
And it's interesting because the movie that was done in the 1950s is set in the early 1900s, and the movie that's set here looks like it was from a town that died in the 50s.
Yeah, it was
like it's
so
that
cool.
really powerful Art Deco style that is very prominent. It looks like it just looked like a 50s town. It was nice. It was cool. It was just fun to look at.
Yeah.
So you've got like the weird callbacks. You've got one of the characters named Vincent, which I'm sure is a throwback to Vincent Price. It's giving homage to the old film while also telling a slightly newer story. I will say that I think the storyline of the old movie might be a little more better developed, but both of them are predictable in a lot of ways. It's nothing that's going to just blow your mind.
Yeah, especially if you're a horror movie fan, you're going to see everything once and you're going to be like, call it pretty early about what's happening and whatnot.
Like by about 25 to 30 minutes in, I could have pretty much written down every twist and guessed which characters were going to die with about 90% accuracy.
Right, and I was actually pretty surprised. This, spoiler alert again, this didn't have a final girl.
Yeah.
Which was really kind of cool. They had, and it wasn't even a final couple, it was a final brother and sister, which I don't think a lot of movies have done that.
I don't think so. I'm sure there's been a couple, but it's... Considering that family is a big theme in this, I think that kind of mattered for the people that are going to make it out.
Which is it was just cool. Between the two, and I gotta say, I'm pretty surprised that this movie did so badly back in 2005.
Yeah.
And I remember a lot of people saying that movie was terrible. Like, it was just kind of a B movie, and I actually got the movie a couple of weeks ago before we talked about doing a review on it, because I was like, oh, I love kind of cheesy, crappy horror movies. But rewatching it held up way better than we originally thought.
Yeah, and this was my first viewing of the 2005 version, and while it is campy, while it is predictable, while it is every other thing that you'd expect from a mid-2000s horror movie that's pseudo-slasher, I had fun with it. Like, it's a movie that, especially if you're sitting on a couch with multiple friends and you're just bullshitting, like, there is nothing wrong with having fun with this movie.
No.
Just don't be serious about it. Enjoy the fact that it's good and bad, and roll with it. Like, I didn't even think it was that bad in a critical sense either. Like, if you're gonna try to put it up against Rosemary's Baby, yeah, it's not gonna stand up as an absolute classic. But compared to the movies of the time, it's fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, so we recommend watching it. That being said, for original versus remake, this is actually really hard for me.
This has been a kind of rough one, like, because Vincent Price and that original, like, if I'm going to tell people to watch horror from the 50s, this is going to be in the top, like, 3 or 4 now for, like, just a really solid, well-made movie that that's timeless. It doesn't have hang-ups. It doesn't have like a bunch of things that you have to research the times to get into. It has some of the more classic actors of the time, and it's a great thing to show people if you want to exhibit who Vincent Price is. But to say, is it better than the new one? I would say yes, because of its timelessness, but not necessarily because of like the absolute entertainment value. I liked both of these, and I had fun with both of them for different reasons.
It's just surprising for me to watch a movie that's almost that old that's not considered a great, like Casablancas or Vertigo or whatnot. I feel like when you're researching videography and whatnot, this is not quite in that caliber, but it was super easy to watch being a modern person, and I don't think that happens a lot, especially with horror movies. Comparison between the two is watch both of them and you figure it out, because honestly they're both really fun to watch.
Yeah,
They're
it's
really,
not like
really
we're talking about Jacob's Ladder, where if you watch the new one you've wasted 2 hours of your life.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to be your favorite movie of all time, but you're not going to feel that bad for spending an hour and a half watching, or 3 hours watching both.
And be our age and watch it and make fun of the music choice and be like, wow, we were really into this back then, because we were, and you know it.
I don't know. I think that's all I have to say about it. I have always enjoyed Elisha Cuthbert, so that helps too.
If you've seen both of these, let us know what you think. If you've seen one or the other, let's talk about it. I'd really be interested to know what modern people think of the 2005 version. I really, really want to hear, actually.
And if you want to know more about the older version, there is going to be a 5 facts on the original House of Wax. Hit us up on our social media, and we will talk to you guys later with more original versus remake reviews, etc.
Bye.
Bye.